episode 67 of the Guest Life podcast. Cannot believe we're here Saturday morning. Me and Mark moved it around today. We're at 11 a.m. Rock and roll. We're with Mark McGinty, co-founder and CEO of McGinty Toman Electric. I've known Mark for God knows how long. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
As everybody tuning in, thank you so much on all the platforms here. It's really cool to see how many awesome entrepreneurs tune into the show. Obviously, have them on the show. It's going to be a great day today. Obviously, friendship, conversation, and then business and success. So, Mark, welcome, and tell us a little bit. I mean, Mark brought a book today, so we're going to get into that. I don't know if anybody can see it, but we've got the Healthy Alphabet as well that we're going to discuss. I remember when Mark first told me about it, I was in shock. I didn't know he could spell.
Yeah, I still can't. I had to get it edited many a times over.
Yeah. So tell us a little about it, man. We know you're an electrician, but you're a lot more than that. What's going on?
Yeah, so, my background story is pretty much out of high school. I was in the military for 4 years. A lot of people don't know about that. Once I got out of the military, my business partner now, Brandon Toman, he was working at an electrical company called North Star Electric. Shout out to North Star Electric. And they pretty much took me on green. Had a great time working there, great work environment. A lot of things they instilled in their business, I utilize to today the way I instill mine because I liked their approach. It felt comfortable working there. You felt important. So after North Star, I worked there for about 5 years. I went to another company here in Ancaster. Then I went to Dofasco for 5 years. I was a construction electrician in Dofasco.
Oh, wow.
And it was good, but it didn't really fill my needs. I didn't feel like I was, reaching my full potential there. And, just like any other tradesman, you're doing side jobs, right? And then more side jobs come in, more side jobs come in, more side jobs come in. And then the side jobs got bigger. Me and Brandon started teaming up together. Right?
And was he at Dofasco as well?
No, so he still was at North Star.
Okay.
Brandon worked there for about, I believe, 15 years.
Wow.
Prior to leaving. So that was his pretty much like only job.
Okay.
But he has a ton of experience, which is
of
great,
course.
Right? And then, so me and Brandon would work afternoons on weekends, pretty much like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturdays. And then we started working for contractors. And then contractors need invoices. So we're like, hey, let's start something up. Right. So then we started up doing that probably for about 2.5 years. This all started back in 2019. We didn't officially open as full-time electricians or electrical businesses until March 18th of 2022.
No way.
So it'll be 3 years this March. But we were pretty much putting in full-time hours.
That's amazing.
We had 2 jobs. Yeah, it was good. And then one day we just reached that fork in the road. Anxiety starts to kick in, fear of the unknown, which some people thrive off of. And some people are hesitant and say, hey, I don't want to go any further. This is where my comfort is.
Totally.
I'm done. But for, the special breed that like a challenge, they take that and they utilize it and they fuel from that fear to keep on pushing through because they don't want to fail.
Totally.
Right. So, and then that brings us to here now. So it's pretty good. And then talk about the book if you want to get into that now or you want to stay on.
Yeah. I just want to take a pause there. Like one of the things I find so interesting is, and I find it to be very specific as well. And what you talked about with your first company and what you took from them and they instilled in you and your partner was working there as well right up until you guys opened your own business. I find a similar thing. Like I used to work for Martina Mechanical. The guys were great. Yeah. The business was awesome. I was treated incredibly well. Tons of room for growth, tons of room for potential. And then the flip side of that, I find sometimes these guys are like, I hate this place. I'm going to build something better and different and all that stuff. Whereas I don't feel, especially I guess, I don't feel like we'll ever need to get to the size of Martina Mechanical. Like they're, they're like, for me, like massive mentorship. And I think, but it's interesting to find the divide of why people started a business.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, right? Like you get to a point and, you know, if you yourself or if myself have an employee that's been with you for a long time and feels, you know, stable enough to go out on their own and feel like they check all the boxes and we did our job.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, sure, it sucks losing somebody like that, but you know what you're doing is right. And even working at, you know, a company that I thought was really good, there's been jobs where I was like, I didn't like this. I liked the job. I liked the people, but I just didn't like how it was ran.
Yeah.
And now I look at both of those and pick what I want to, you know, put through to my business and the way it operates, the way we treat our guys. Because you being, you know, boots on the ground before, you know what you liked, you know what you didn't like. And you can't think and speak for everybody, but you can utilize those experiences to try and mold something as perfect as you can get it, which is, there's no such thing as perfection, but there's always room for improvement. But you have a good starting ground on, hey, I like this. Hey, I didn't like this. I'm not going to approach it that way. I'm going to approach it this way.
Totally. Yeah. I think, I mean, I love what you said there. It's very interesting to see when somebody leaves your business, especially as a business owner. And sometimes I talk to younger people in kind of less mature states from a business perspective of when someone leaves you after a certain amount of time, where they start their apprenticeship and then get their apprenticeship and then, you know, move on to better things. That's what business success is.
Absolutely. A lot of people forget about that. Yeah,
that's a huge win, right? Like, we had that happen. I think we've had it happen a couple times here. Like, we throw parties for the guys. It's fantastic. Or maybe it's a stepping stone in their career in a different type of position that's within the business. Or, you know, that resume that was on, even if they go to a different job, not say open a business, but your company on their resume got them that job.
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge win.
For sure.
Yeah.
They look at your name on that piece of paper and seeing, hey, you know, you work for these guys. We know how they operate. We like how they operate.
Yeah.
And it kind of reinforces their decision to bring that type of person on.
I love that. So bring it back before we'd like to ask this question, but what was your first paid job?
You know what, man? First paid job was probably a paper route.
Yeah.
And, you know, delivering papers, and then you get like a base pay. And then at the end of each month or each quarter, they go around and give you a box or a bag to collect donations, right? And that is commission based. So the more you get, the more you make.
Yeah.
All right. So that was pretty much my first paid job. But then I was a soccer referee.
Oh, no way.
For a while. Yeah, just like little small jobs.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
My first actual like recognizable brand job was Cineplex in Ancaster.
Nice.
Yeah, it was around Christmas time. I was brought on for seasonal work, and you know, I got let go after 3 months.
Oh yeah.
Right, but hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Understanding how the business
works. Was
I
upset? Sure, but life goes on.
Yeah.
On to bigger and better things. Man, I probably worked I was always one of those guys that, like, you know, maybe looking back at it now, the amount of jobs that I had, it was my pursuit for something bigger and better. Because I actually would have to take jobs off my resume because I didn't want to look like I was constantly jumping around. Because as business owners, you know, you see someone worked at some place for 5, 10, 3 years, there's loyalty there.
Totally.
Right? And you can feel comfortable bringing this person on that, you know, hopefully you're that next 5 on the resume.
Yeah.
So I would take jobs off just to make it look like I wasn't jumping around as much.
And I like even what you said there. Maybe I can be the next 5 on the resume. Not, I hope this person dies with me. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's not reality. That's not life, right?
No.
You know, I think there's a conversation around healthy turnover. Keeping people fresh, keeping people engaged, keeping things going. Obviously, we've all got those those key staff members that you never want to leave. But those are the people that are constantly improving themselves too within their roles, or they've been able to recreate roles within the business as you grow.
Absolutely. Those key staff members that you don't want them to leave, they're the ones that you move up to those next levels, right? Which is still a hit to a business, because you take a great electrician, a great plumber off the tools. You losing that asset 100%. Out there. But they've earned it. And if you don't give it to them, they're probably going to be looking somewhere else.
That is, we just clipped, edit, repeat that. It's so true. It's funny when people say, man, aren't you good? Like, you don't need to grow anymore. You're making money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, our team wants to improve. Our team wants to grow. And when you have that entrepreneurial spirit and creating that opportunity for others, it can be a really powerful space. What, when you guys were thinking about, okay, we're going to make this jump, what was going through your head at that time?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I can speak for everybody. Like the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty. Yeah. Right? Is this going to work? I left DeFasco, which was, it was it was a 6-figure job.
Yep.
Right? But I wasn't getting fulfilled. So part of me wanted to do something better, utilize my skill more. And the thoughts that were going through my mind, man, was just uncertainty.
What made you, fear. What gave you the confidence to do it? Or was it just blind energy?
Me as a person, number one, having the support with Brandon too, for sure. People, if you always want to maximize profits, somebody being solo, you're always going to maximize them, right?
Of course.
But I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as like a joint venture, a team right off the hop, which is a great building block to any successful venture. And, kind of like if he's doing it too and I'm doing it, we're both in the same boat together and we're either sinking or swimming. And It's a lot easier, like let's just say row instead of swim, because you won't swim together. But it's a lot easier to row in a boat with 2 people rather than 1.
Of course.
And Brandon, great electrician, man. One of the best electricians I've ever met in my life. A lot better than me.
Yeah.
And he can just get it done. And in terms of, quality and effort and accuracy of installations, it was never something I was worried about, because we knew what we were doing. The tough part is reaching that level where, are you just going to be doing, small jobs, or are you going to turn it into a business?
Yeah.
So the unknown was the biggest thing, without a doubt. And I'm sure I can speak for Brandon too. And people say, comfort's a drug. And I was never comfortable. So I was okay with constantly going. I know Brandon, he was at a job for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's comfortable. But obviously, whatever went through his mind, he realized that he wanted something bigger and better, and something to call his own, right? And he probably was thinking fear as well too. Everybody is, right? Because at that point in time, we had houses, right?
Mortgages.
We had responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's tough to just shift from guaranteed paychecks to nothing. But you can also look at it as, use that as a driving force to make sure that you don't fail. Because at the end of the day, your input equals your output.
Yeah.
And you can control that. Sometimes you can't control the market. Sometimes you just can't control who people utilize for their installations.
Totally.
And at the end of the day, if that's something you can't control, then at least you gave it your best shot. And you didn't screw up or didn't ruin an opportunity based off of something that you could control, which is your input. So pretty much fear, anxiety, pretty much what everybody felt.
And the thing about partnership is one of the things that I found very interesting when talking about partnership, and one thing that you and Brandon have such good grasp on that I've been able to witness is, I always say if 2 people in the business do the same thing, it's just 2 guys or 2 people that need a hug. Whereas a true partnership, which is what you guys have created, is people that stay in their lane. You just what you said, there's quality, the job's going to get done right, can trust in their partner. Or if I always say, like, when they both show up to the same meeting. Yeah. It's like, what is the point here, guys?
You know what, dude? We went through that, and, for quite some time, there was a lot of animosity when it was just me and Brandon working together.
Yeah.
Part and part because you had two licensed tradesmen working on the same job, wanting to do something their way.
Yep.
And there was times where me and Brandon would work on the same job, we wouldn't even talk to each other. Then we wouldn't talk to each other outside of work. And it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would be talking to customers, doing my thing, while Brandon was still working. And I know he's told me now that he used to get pissed off at me for that. But now he sees why it was getting done. And me and Brandon, when it comes to business, we're polar opposites. Brandon stays in his lane. He does what he does what he's good at. I do what I'm good at. If we cross over, then it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And we respect each other's space, and we respect each other's decision-making abilities.
Yeah.
And we never undermine each other. And even with our guys, Brandon is the first point of contact. If he's unavailable, they do call me, but we make sure that funnel is known that this is Brandon roles and responsibilities. Respect that, follow that, but I'm always here too.
And so, talking about like always wanting more and stuff like that, where do you seek information from? I find a lot of, I guess a guiding question, but I find a lot of people, we talked about it earlier with podcasts and people where they were gathering from, but like there's so much business information out there. How do you choose one or the other?
Listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, talk to a lot of people. Me and you have conversations before. Sean Mount, obviously, he was, before I started my business, he was always the one to push me to be like, set a date. And luckily I had friends that already owned businesses that could offer advice prior, such as yourself, such as Sean, even Greg. And the advice they give you, that's stuff that they've gone through. You might not necessarily go through that. It might not apply to you, but you can take little bits and pieces. And then when you're going through business and making decisions, you got to weigh your options on what you heard versus what you feel is the right decision, and then make a decision and stick with it. And either it worked or it didn't. And then you find out why it didn't. And then you make it work the next time.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of information out there. And I always say, where is the either judgment or support coming from? Is it coming from somebody that's already done it, that you respect and you admire and you want to be like? Or are you getting told to calm down and slow your business from somebody that doesn't have one, or maybe doesn't understand what risk is, or maybe just is nervous for you or cares a lot?
Yeah, you know what? I honestly have not really came across somebody saying that to me, which is a good thing because it shows a lot of support. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't listen to them anyways, because at the end of the day, it's my life. It's what I'm doing. It's what I think is right. You can tell me what you think is right or the right decision. I'll take that in and I'll, ponder about it when I'm making a decision. But ultimately, I don't listen to anybody. Right? Yeah. Besides for obviously God, but my team, Brandon, stuff like that. Right? Yeah. It's more so a figure of speech. But from a young age, man, I was always reading entrepreneurial books, especially business books. I remember back in high school, McNabb, I always wanted to do, my favorite course was international business.
Really?
I was always reading business books, man. I was always reading, any books that I could get my hands on about money. And there was one, it was The Wealthy Barber. I'm drawing a blank here. What's that guy's name that wrote that book? I forget what it is. It's going to bother me now. But books like that, I would always read informative books on businesses. At that age. Well, you know what's funny? At the end of the book, it was actually was it David Chilton?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it is. It was A Wealthy Barber Returns. And I'd always go to chapters, read books on business, on finance. I was very interested in money. And his book, at the end of his book, he had his email there. And his email was like, hey, if you made it this far in the book, feel free to reach out and email me.
Come on.
And he's just like, I'll try to respond to it. So me being me, I'm going to see if this guy follows through with it or not. So I emailed the guy just a generalized question about RSPs, something that I already knew the answer to, but I just wanted to entertain it to see if he'd answer. And sure enough, 3-4 weeks later, I get a call from a private number, and he's just like, Hey, Mark, this is David Chilton. Just returning your phone call. Just read your email. Do you have any other questions about what you asked? Yeah, it was pretty cool. But like guys like that, right? And then just to see the follow through. And I take that into business now. I always answer every single phone call, every single text message, and go to every single job. It doesn't matter what capacity it comes in.
For sure.
Right? And that speaks volume too on the integrity of a person and their business.
Yeah, 100%. So we've got this children's book here, and I want to touch on it. What and how did you come up with this?
Funny, speaking about podcasts. So I actually wrote that book about 3 years ago. I was writing it while I was on lunch working at the Fasco. And I was listening to Andy Frisella, MF CEO Project.
Yep.
And, he was talking about books that he wrote. And I'm like, me being me, I always like to strive for, something bigger, something better, or just an accomplishment or a challenge or whatever. So I was like, I'd be interested in writing a book. And then I'm like, I can't write a novel. What am I going to write a novel about, right? Like Dan said, I can barely spell. So I was just like, okay, a children's book, something entry level, something easy, And then I'm like, what am I going to write a children's book about? And I'm not really I don't really have any good stories to tell, or I don't have that creative mindset in that application. So I was like, what's lacking in this world? Healthy eating, alphabet learning, stuff like that. That's always going to be around. It's timeless stuff.
Yeah,
right?
it looks like that. I've seen that book a million times.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know what? It's something that can go back into society as just, a piece of educational information that can be utilized.
100%.
Right? Which is
a positive impact.
And a positive impact, but let me not forget the other half. Jeff Walpole, of course, who's the illustrator on the book. I reached out to him and was like, "Hey, Jeff, would you be interested in doing a children's book with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, Mark, absolutely." Funny enough, I was just thinking about that too. So I did all the text, obviously, but as you can see, it's very, very vibrant, and that was all product of Jeff Walpole's creative genius.
Which we grew up together going to school. So if you, for Jeff, listen, this is awesome.
Yeah. It's a great book. So that book, it took about 3 years to come around.
Yeah.
And then we got it to a point where we printed it on a, paper stock and a book type just to see what it was like in the hands, right? See how we liked it. And then me and Jeff would meet at Indigo and discuss what we're going to do next for the book. Like, how are we going to get it in? And then one day we were just like, you know what, man? Let's just go talk to somebody. We're at the Indigo in Ancaster. We're in the Starbucks, and we're like, let's just go talk to this manager. So we went and talked to a manager there and was just like, how do we get our book in here? And he's just like, you got to do this, this, and this. So we found a publisher. Jeff found a publisher, got it published. And then that publisher put it on Amazon, put it on her website. It's on Google Books too.
Very cool.
It's in Barnes & Noble online as well. It's on a few other online retailers. And then we just circled back to the same manager at Indigo last weekend and was like, hey, do you remember us? And he actually did. And he's just like, we're like, here's our book. And he's just like, great, send me an email. Here's the paperwork, and we'll work on getting it into your book or into the store. So that book's going in Indigo chapters just at that location as of the new year.
Amazing.
And then we just gotta, do our thing and hustle and bustle to get it into other chapters because they're all, their own store and they can pick and choose what they want. They all have an online registry that they can choose from, but it speaks a lot going to a store. And that chapters is going to set us up with like a Saturday or Sunday book signing event. So we'll have a table and we'll have a bunch of copies and, give them out, sell them, sign them, whatever.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I think, the story there that really gets me is like, how do we do this? Right? Like, there's always an answer to a question. You just have to go to the right people and talk to the right people.
Yeah, you just have to figure it out. Talk to somebody, research it, look up online, read about it. There's always a way.
And so talking about time and coming up with stuff like this and being creative, because, even though you said you don't know how to write a book, like, it's very creative and it's a very thoughtful product, in my opinion. How do you manage the excitement of like, again, like selfishly, I know a lot more about his business than some of the listeners. Like, you bought that boom truck and, going out and getting creative and taking risks and stuff like that. How do you manage some of your excitement in the business in terms of putting things into action?
Just take it moment by moment, man. Really. Like, to touch on the boom truck too, we also bought the excavator, and then we did start doing trench excavation as well, right? Which is kind of like a sideways thing, but it's an opportunity. When we got insurance for it, we have excavation insurance as well, just to make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. But it's it's healthy to get excited about something, but you can't cloud your vision with excitement, right? Just because in your mind you think it's going to work doesn't mean it actually will. You got to take a step back and make sure that you're weighing your options and you're weighing the decisions that you think are going to be the best ones to make. And just like everything else, man, we started out with an idea that we knew potentially could fail, but we went through it anyways. Yeah. And that still happens every single day in business. Nothing's guaranteed, but the only way you're going to find out if it works is if you try it. And you can't be scared to try new things.
And how do you manage your time on a daily basis? Obviously, you got to have, home life, you got friends, you got the gym. Like, what's the day in the life of Mark McGinty look like?
Yeah, well, get up in the morning, head down to the shop. I used to go to the gym in the morning, but my sleep's not that great, so I sacrificed the gym, slept in more, go down to the shop, do my thing, come home, hang out with my girlfriend, Lindsay. I'll take my dog, Thor, for a walk, answer calls, answer emails, answer text messages, go to the gym if I can. I've been slacking lately, but, you have ups and downs and everything, right?
Of course.
But time management, man, it's just do one thing at a time, right? You can't please everybody.
Yeah.
There has to be sacrifice, all right? You just got to do what is best for you and what you think is going to make your life happy.
100%. I think that's such great advice. So what advice would you give to your younger self? You can be at any point, whether it's starting a business, whether it's getting into the Army.
Yeah, business-wise, should have started it sooner.
Okay.
But timing-wise, might not have been a good time to start it. Get experience. People always say you got to make a decision, you got to make a decision, you got to make a decision on something you want to do. And yeah, it's true, you do. But that time for someone to make a decision varies. And sometimes you got to try new things. Sometimes you got to figure out what you don't like before you find out what you do like. And, you just don't rush into things.
Yeah.
Take it easy, right? There's going to be plenty of time. There's plenty of time to fail. There's plenty of time to figure out what you don't want to do. There's plenty of time to figure out what you do want to do. Try different things. Don't just stick to one thing because you think it's the right thing to do. But if you're comfortable doing it, then, hey, that's okay too. Totally. Do what you want to do. But advice for myself, man, is just, it's tough to say because with a business, there's so many avenues, and I could have been like, you should have got that electrical license earlier. You should have got a business degree and all the stuff that it takes to run a business. But throughout my life, doing the different things, seeing what I seen, having the experience that I had, it was exactly how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Hence why I'm here right now, right? And hopefully we'll be here for many years to come.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think, I had someone tell me once, I used to say, it's never the right time, just do it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, if that's the case, then that means it's always the right time. That's
right. That's true.
And, that hit me pretty hard. Obviously, there's always context and reason, but going through these journeys where there's a lot of judgment and fear and all that stuff, and the anxiety and excitement are very close to each other, right? And those words have a lot of meaning. So going through it, Mark, it was so great to hear more about your business, how you got started. Totally. I didn't realize you and Brandon's relationship before you guys started your business, and also how you guys worked at the same company. And yeah. I think it's so cool to see. I have a similar story with Jeff, got me into plumbing. Yeah. And, seeing that progression.
It's good. It can either, make a friendship or ruin a friendship, right? But as long as you respect each other and you trust each other, then there's no reason why it shouldn't work. Right?
100%. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Dan. It was a pleasure.
For everybody listening, Mark McGinty, We're going to have all his social media platforms on all the links in the bio. A link to the book if you guys want to take a copy. We'd love to see that. Maybe Mark will sign it himself. And yeah, this podcast is here to share stories of entrepreneurs like Mark's and all the things he does for the community and giving back and giving a shit. He's a great example of what an entrepreneur can do and look like. And thanks so much for sharing our story.
No problem. Thanks for making me blush.
That's it, buddy.